we're going to discuss 3 creative ways that you can invest in real estate with little or no money out of your pocket. We're going to be diving deep into wholesaling, how to do it right, how to be smart, all about this investment strategy. In this video, I'm going to put myself out of business by answering the questions. How can I be super targeted with my marketing while at the same time cast a really wide net? Hey, stop what you were doing. The best way in which to leverage YouTube ads for your real estate investment business is to be an authority in the market that you're in as just content that is for free. And in the forecast, it's rain and money. Now I got to pick all that up. Why would I ever pay for data?
We're going to talk to you about getting started as a newer real estate investor, what are some of the drawbacks and roadblocks and challenges that you might run into, common pitfalls. Every once in a while, I have a good idea.
Moments of clarity is what I call it. I was like, man, you're really smart. Yeah, no, I just have moments of clarity.
So whether you're brand new to real estate or like many of our done-for-you marketing clients, you've been doing this for years, you'll be armed with the how-to close more deals and scale your business right now, not later, because the name of the game is speed to lead. Rapid fire, as quickly as you can tap the mouse button. So the more reps you get in, the more confidence you'll have, and that confidence will help you close more deals. There's a lot of different creative strategies that you can do to really help you get a leg up over your competition when you're out there making offers and lock up better deals. If you make your team members and your employees feel more like than anybody else, by definition, they will make the customers and the clients and the sellers and the people that you're working with and you're trying to help solve their problems, they will make them feel like they are the most important people in the world. Good to meet you in Zoom. You're away to make dad joke. I'm working on my dad jokes. My dad shirt, the roast beef, the cow sitting in the sun, and working on dad jokes. Chris closes your deals. Word, and I'm an MC. C in the sea with the little fishies. So it's time to make it easy. We are going through this series so that you can see exactly what we're doing to get deals, so that you can emulate that and get deals for yourself. You got to manage your own expectations for success. It's not always easy. It's not always going to be quick. Just stay in it, buddy. You're going to get there. Nobody is going to be pushing. You don't have a manager. You are the boss. So you have to know that you're going to have to take initiative. You guys want to start getting deals? What are you waiting for?
So let's just start with the basics.
If you're looking to improve your lead management, let's connect. We are going through the wholesaling case study so that you can see exactly what we're doing to get deals. Real estate investing is not a get-rich-quick scheme.
It's definitely not a get-rich-quick scheme. It can be just a get-rich.
Yes.
Not a quick, not a scheme. There are telltale signs of a property that might be into telltale signs or telltale. So there are telltale signs when the grass is so tall. It tells you that there might be something going on when every other property in the neighborhood is in great shape. You know what it's called?
What's that?
That's called a pro tip. When it comes to what marketing you should deploy, it usually is dependent on 2 factors: time versus money. Nationally, investors are working with us to fulfill their marketing. So nationally, like it's the difference between nuclear and nuclear. I know which one's correct. So if you don't have a lot of this, we're also going to share with you how you can benefit them so that these relationships can truly add value to everybody involved. Real estate, as far as markets are concerned, it's all local. It's all local, 100%. All right, let's Real estate has so many different niches, frankly, niches that even as a seasoned investor, I'm not that familiar with.
For the majority of real estate investors across this country, it's really just a way to provide a good living for their families and live a decent life. If you're just starting out and you don't have a lot of connections, get out there and get involved in other communities. Start outreach to your buyers, having those conversations with either the buyers themselves or the agents that were on those transactions.
This stuff is groundbreaking and it absolutely should be integrated into every investor's business everywhere. If you're considering getting into real estate investments and you say, man, I want to do this, just understand why. If you want to be a successful business owner, regardless of what niche you're in, you have to hire right.
Is it a skill position that requires, intensive training, or is it a task-based position that I could train somebody really quickly?
If you're curating and using data even at a really high level and you miss this one critical piece, you're wasting time and money.
So we come up with all types of creative strategies to make deals work. There's two schools of thought in the on-market offers that you're sending out. The first school of thought is reach out to every agent before you send an offer out. They're going to be able to put at least a voice to the name that's being submitted on the offer. What we're going to talk about today is how to quickly and efficiently increase your credit score leveraging credit cards.
Nail it and scale it.
And look what time it is.
It's time to make it easy. And that was super cheesy.
All you need is friends that have access to credit cards with no balances.
That are willing to help.
Yes. Yeah. This is the exact process that you can use to identify buyers in the markets that you have deals in, as well as private money lenders.
I encourage you, give a private money lender pitch to every seller that you're speaking with. And if you're wondering, how do I do that?
When you have a deal that you're going to wholesale, you put it out there to your buyers list and you tell them that there's already a list in place with an agent at 1.5%.
My goal for this is to be tremendously valuable for you.
Think you can't make money on those? You're wrong. We made so much money on these deals. We love mobile homes. So I think it's really important that you understand if you're cold calling, they are only prospects.
Yeah, hello. Yes, I do want to sell my house. Thank you for cold calling me.
The fortune is in the follow-up.
Yes, cold calling can be very, very profitable, but you got to take action and get on the phone. And if it's not you, you got to find somebody who's going to be a good closer.
Process that we use with Lazarus Property Group is called a setter closer model. Sometimes it's advantageous to go out on a limb and lock up a cash deal at a number that's maybe slightly higher than you originally wanted to.
Can I just give her $10,000 to just go kick rocks?
Yeah, that sounds good. Today, we're presenting our agent Jecka with a check for $10,000 for doing, you guessed it, absolutely nothing.
What the heck is the difference between a realtor and a real estate agent? I used to wonder the same thing, and now I are one.
It is absolutely crucial that you already have a relationship with an agent in your area set up. Some of the basic ways you can get involved is you can start out and just communicating directly with agents, build relationships with agents.
I always say this, and it's because I heard this quote from Richard Branson. If I'm the smartest person in the room, I'm in the wrong room.
If you don't have systems and processes in place that you've created and dialed in, then you're not bringing on an employee. You are bringing on a partner without the expectations of what the partner is. Get educated, but at the end of the day, at some point, you're going to have to take action, and, you have to be an action taker. You just got to go for it. Wholesaling is simply one exit strategy in a multitude of exit strategies.
want to go out there and then post a job ad without any of these foundational things in place. Do a little bit of work in the beginning to prepare yourself for massive success and a way easier time managing. Learn how you can skyrocket your real estate business and then get more opportunities to share with private money lenders.
What are you? I'm the fly.
So it's time to make it easy. All of this education without action is just entertainment. It's networking and direct to seller. Start networking and aligning yourselves with other people because Brad is a case study of this.
At some point, you're going to have to step out of your comfort zone and get it done. It's all going to be on your why. That's going to drive you to do it. So guys, keep it easy. If you're just starting out and you don't have a lot of connections, is to get out there and get involved in other communities, real estate RIAs, other investor groups, and just kind of see what other people are doing. But also using Privy, if you're on the fence, whether you should be putting your content out there, you absolutely 1000% should.
If you want to be a successful business owner, regardless of what niche you're in, you have to hire right.
Is it a skill position that requires, intensive training? Or is it a task-based position that I could train somebody really quickly? Guys, Chris is a great closer. If you guys need help closing deals, all right, guys, this should be a deal. There's people on YouTube having GPT-3 make AI. So AI making AI. AI babies is what it is.
Educate yourself, continue to pour and continue to stay in touch with people who either can be mentors, coaches, trainers.
When you identify those and map those out, it's going to put you in a better position to fill those roles and develop your team out. It's not all rainbows and cupcakes, guys. Sometimes deals don't turn out the way you want them to be.
And he goes over there and just flips it and it gets everywhere. Like,
You're funny.
I have a rounder head. Yes, I have more hair, so it looks bigger. Best dad ever.
Wholesaling is just simply a strategy that I use from time to time, maybe more often than not, to actually transact deals. Well, if you're just starting out and you don't have a lot of connections, is to get out there and get involved in other communities.
We are real estate investors first and foremost. That's what we're doing all week, all day, every day.
Greg Garcia here. I'm Chris Deal.
I'm Christian Weatherspoon with Real Estate Investing Made Easy, and it's time to make it easy. What's up, everybody, and welcome to Feedback Friday. It's awesome to be on here. We got Chris on here as well.
What's up, everybody, and welcome to Feedback Fridays. We got Chris on here too. I just realized that my audio was cutting out and you guys couldn't even hear me. But we are excited to have another episode. Obviously, we had this little countdown. You could see that. We're just testing that out. And I realized the music wasn't actually playing, which was kind of weird because I expected it to be, but it wasn't. So here we are. And man, I'm super excited because we got a lot of questions. I know that we didn't go live this last week like we normally do or have been. So, apologies for that, guys, because we've been really, really busy in the background doing some really cool stuff that we're excited to share with you about, even on this call. But of course, we're going to be diving into the questions, not just the ones we got this last week, but also your live questions. I see there's a couple of you on already, and I appreciate that. As always, welcome to Real Estate Investing Made Easy's Feedback Fridays Live. Chris, what's going on, man? How are you?
What's up, brother? Doing great. How about yourself?
Can you hear me, buddy?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Oh, hold on a second. How are you? Sometimes when I mute my computer, I can't hear you. I didn't change the input, so that would be the reason I didn't hear you. There you go. Yeah, man, technology is great when it works. So we're just figuring out this stuff with the countdown to make it really cool so we can make sure we start with everybody on. Anyway, now the audio is fixed. What's up, brother? How you doing?
Doing great. How about yourself?
Like I said, man, scrambling to make sure that this stuff is working properly. Technology is great when it works. We have some hiccups, but hey, we're still going to roll with it. And we're going to get into we have some really cool questions that I'm excited to answer, actually. And I know that you got some input for this as well. But with the week, man, I'll tell you, it has been one heck of a week with transactions, but also with how busy we've been. And I cut my fingers on a razor blade. I just reached into a box and there happened to be a razor blade in there. Yeah, it sucked. It's like still hurting. So
That sucks.
and sleepless nights, of course, with the kids. But you know what I'm talking about there, obviously.
What, sleepless nights with kids?
Oh, yeah. Well, at least one kid, right? Because they're up all night crying. For sure.
Yeah, I don't know. We're blessed. I don't really run into that problem very much.
Oh, man. I heard that it's mostly like young boys who are a handful when they're younger. But for me, I guess I just got an amazing wife who's helping with all that stuff too. So, by the way, Nic Holiday is in the waiting room. Did you send over?
Yep. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, there's one other thing I forgot to mention. We're going to be bringing on some people live.
Yeah, absolutely. So moving forward, guys, if you guys, obviously you can watch on YouTube, you can be in the chat, you can send us messages, you can comment on videos, on our channel, and we'll certainly answer those questions. Additionally, we will be providing a Zoom link where people can jump on and live have their questions answered. And, if it's something specific about technology that we're using or software that we're using, we can screen share and dive into that stuff. So we want to make it as interactive as possible. So I think that's going to be really helpful. And Nic is a younger investor who has recently started, and I've been working with him on a bunch of different things. So
awesome. You want to just kick it off by bringing him in right now, or you want to start with the question?
Sure. Yeah, let's go.
All right, let's bring Nic in.
What's up, Nic?
Yo, what's up, Nic? You're live.
How are you guys
Real Estate
doing?
Investing Made Easy. Good, man.
Great, man. Yeah, you're live on the YouTube channel.
Awesome. Very cool.
The world.
That's right. The
So
world of
what's going on, man?
people right now.
Not much. I got a couple under contract that we spoke about last time, but the clock is ticking on them, like I said. So I've done everything I can to find cash buyers, but the one big thing that I wanted to learn was to send out that mass SMS text blast and an email blast. So I got Privy like you recommended. It's been awesome for running comps. That's huge. The only thing I was confused of is how I can pull the list of buyers. So I can do that big text blast, because I figured out how to through people search them one by one.
Yep.
But I guess that might not be the best use of my time, right?
Yeah, I mean, if you just have ones and twos, that you're just trying to pull up, then that can be good. I have not used True People Search for LLCs, so I'm not quite sure how successful you'll be trying to find entity owners and contact info that way. It might require an extra step, right? You have to go to the Secretary of State, find out who the person is for the entity, and then track that person down using True People Search. So may or may not be a reasonable process to do there. So, but we can show you, let me just pull up Privy real quick. Actually, as a matter of fact, do you have your Privy pulled up?
I don't yet, but I can pull it up pretty quick.
Okay. Yeah. Why don't you pull it up and then just screen share, and then I'll just kind of like walk you through. It's a relatively easy process. And I know a lot of other people that are watching are using Privy. This is something that we use, because here's the thing, right? Like when you're going through and you're using Privy, especially if you're doing on-market offers and you're finding properties to make offers on Privy, it's even easier because literally the comps are exact comps to that specific property, right? So when you're searching on Privy, you pull up those comps, you can see exactly whether, you're muted. Can't hear you, Nick. That's weird. It doesn't look like he's muted.
Right. Yeah, it doesn't. Well, again, like we opened this with, technology is great when it works. So, I mean, if he can't speak and he can't pull anything up, then, feel free, share your screen and go through it.
Still having trouble hearing you, Nick. I'm going to pull up Privy in the meantime.
Awesome. Yeah, I see his lips moving, but I can't hear a thing he's saying.
Okay, let's see. All right. Why don't you type in the chat? Matter of fact, let me just pull up here. I'll just pull up like one of our lists.
Yo, MB said Nick has an Android. There you go. He hasn't come to the dark side.
Yeah, we still can't hear anything, Nick. That's so weird. He got booted.
Yeah, hopped off. So maybe if he tries to pop back on, it'll be fine. But yeah, just go ahead and pull that up. And actually, interestingly enough, we have another question about Privy and the Privy process too. So we might as well address that after you go through this.
Perfect. All right. Let's see here. So Brad does the more extensive. Here he comes.
Can you hear me, guys?
Yeah, you're back.
Okay, sorry. I don't know why. I hope it doesn't do that again. That's weird.
That's-
Otherwise, maybe I'll have to pull it up on my phone.
No worries, no worries. All right, cool. So yeah, it's a pretty easy process. And Brad kind of goes through this on some of the Privy training. So if you haven't gone through that, I would definitely encourage you to go through like the whole Privy training playlist. And if you don't see it in there, I'm pretty sure this process is in there. But if it's not, just send us a message and we'll put it in there. But let me just share my screen real quick. All right, can you see the screen here?
I can. Yeah, I'm good.
So now have you gone in and created like your folders and lists and stuff like that to put properties in?
No, I haven't.
Okay. All right, cool. So you're definitely going to want to go through the Privy training series. So Privy you can use Privy almost like a CRM in some senses, not for contacting people and everything, but at least for storing the records and organizing the records. So you can see how and Brad is the one that primarily operates in here, so I'm not as smooth and efficient in here as Brad would be. But Brad's tied up at the moment. So I can kind of walk you through a little bit, but you can see how we've got like buyers to contact for Kansas City. Then we've got Kansas City 60 plus days on market, Kansas City 1 to 59 days on market, San Diego foreclosures, so we have all of these different folders that properties end up getting organized in. And so the way Privy works, especially when it comes to like pulling lists, you've got searches that you create. And then those searches are basically folders. They get updated all the time, right? So you can set this up where it's like a regularly occurring thing where it'll constantly send you an email with any new properties that fit that specific criteria that you set up a list for. Now I'm giving a little bit more context. You don't have to do this to just go one-off searching. But I think it'll kind of give you a better perspective of a much higher level and a more efficient way you can use Privy to run your business and do your deals, find not only deals, but find buyers very, very effectively. So give me an address of a property that you're currently working.
So 10.
Uh-oh. You there? Type it in the chat.
Yeah, the audio went out again. It's 10. So just find 10. That should be easy. That's the property. Just 10. I love this, by the way. Yeah, yes, Nick, your audio did cut out again.
Hey, Renee, if you share that with us, we'd love to see that write-up that you have for finding the specific agents for the LLCs. And yeah, if you can certainly get a hold of Nick, and I can share that with Nick as well, and share that with everybody if we can put a link in the description for that. So okay, so it's 10601 Denali. Okay, so 10. Oops. Denali. Is that drive, street, avenue? Circle. Okay. None of the above. Denali Circle, Austin. Is it Denali Parkway? That's what's coming up here. Let's see. Oh, Denell. My bad. That would explain it. Okay, Denell.
I was going to guess Dotson next.
Here it is. Denell Circle. Okay, that's the property there. All right, perfect. So when you, let's see here. When you come into here and you find the comps, a second. That thing's freaking out on me over here. Okay, so once you pull up the property and then you scroll down, you can see all the comps. You can see active, sold, rentals. Typically, it's going to have investor activity. I'm not sure why it's not showing investor activity on here at the moment. Let's see here. But what you can do, you can individually go through and manually pull, individual properties, right? So you can go and say, okay, so if this one's a comp, I can click into it. I can come down, scroll down to the bottom. I can look at property history, and I can see who the buyer and seller was, right? So if the buyer was DeLong Property Group, right, I can now skip trace that that group, right? But we want to do this on a large scale. So what you can do is when you create your lists and your searches, sorry. Where's the buyer's lists? Man, Brad is way more efficient in this than I am. So when you use this and you get all of these properties put into these lists like I have here, right? So you can see these buyers to contact. You'll put them in this list. You have this download button over here. And again, the process to get them into this list will be in the Privy training system. And Christian, maybe if you can Slack Brad and find out specifically which video has the exact process for this. We can share that in the description.
Yeah, I think I know which one it is. Since
Okay.
I'm the one who turned it around, I can definitely do that.
Perfect.
It'll be linked.
So once I hit download, right, you have a limitation on how many you can download, but you just hit continue and it's going to spit out that list. And that list, let's see here. Let me just get what that list looks like. Kind of show you how those lists come out. So it's going to have all of the property info. Can you guys see this spreadsheet on the screen or no? I think I need to do
No. No,
Okay.
can't see the spreadsheet.
New share. All right, can you see it now? Okay, cool. So it's going to spit out the spreadsheet with everything. So it's going to have the specific property address, when it was sold, the date, the price, the square footage. And when you scroll over to the right, you're going to have a few things. Now, this is a fully skip traced list. So it's got all the phone numbers and everything, but it's going to have, the days on market. It's going to have owner one, first name, last name, middle name, owner one business. So if it's a business, then it'll have that. And then it'll have previous owner. So oftentimes what you'll see is you might have, for example, let's find one where they're both LLCs. You'll see where sometimes it's one LLC selling it to another LLC, right? Like it could be a perfect example right here. So this particular property, previous owner was Sunshine Holding Group LLC. The new owner is Eternity and Infinity Investments LLC, right? So what you can do, you can either just go through and skip trace one of these lists, right? What I do is I actually double up the list. So I'll filter out all of the ones that are not LLCs. And then I'll just take all of these owner one business names. I'll add them to the bottom of the list with the appropriate addresses that are linked to them. And then I'll submit that over to Best Skip Tracer to skip trace this whole list. So you'll notice that down here from row 49 and beyond, there's no information over here, but I added these LLCs from column W to the very bottom here with the address, with the mailing address, right? And so that way I'm getting not only the LLCs that were the previous owners, but I'm also getting the LLC buyers. And so now I have this big list. And then what I do is I just submit that list to Best Skip Tracer. So you can certainly use the free people search or true people search, but what I would recommend is using Best Skip Tracer. We have really good success and a very low percentage of wrong numbers when using Best Skip Tracer for LLCs. And Christian, do you want to pop the affiliate link for Best Skip Tracer in the chat if you haven't already?
Yep, I'll do that. And what's cool about that, obviously it supports the channel, but in addition, you guys get 50% off your first monthly subscription if you use it. So
yeah. And the way that works, and just to provide context, right? Like most skip tracers are going to be in the 12 to 15 cents per record. With Best Skip Tracer, you can either do I think the free one is like 15 cents. There's a $9 a month subscription, and that gets you like 12 or 13 cents.
it's better to pay for the $99 subscription because it's going to bring it all the way down to 8 cents per skip trace. So once you skip trace like 2,400 records in a month, that covers the cost. But specifically for the first month, the way it works, they don't just give you 50% off. So you still pay the full $99. But what they do with that link is half of that $99 gets credited onto your account towards skip coins. So you can use that towards skip tracing. Now, this is not for like your ones and twosies. They do have a minimum order of 6 skips. So I would just make sure you have at least 6 records to skip trace and you should be good. But we love Best Skip Tracer. It's awesome. We've had great success. That's what we use for all of our skip tracing as of this point. And they're actually in beta testing for Skippy 3.0, which is going to take it to a whole nother level because you're going to be able to store and manage all of your data in there. And what that means, what we found over the last 4 years of doing this is that most people on average, they're skip tracing about 20% of records that they have previously skip traced every single month. And so that can add up very quickly. I mean, if you're skip tracing, if you're doing a large volume, let's say you're doing 50,000 skip traces and 20% of that you've already paid for, that's 10,000 records. At 8 cents per record, that's $800 a month that you had paid for previously that you're just going to pay for again. So with Skippy 3.0, it's going to store all of your previously skipped data, and it's going to allow you to strip out that stuff so you're not paying for duplicate skips. And a lot of people think that most skip tracers don't charge you for duplicate skips. There's an asterisk to that statement. Basically what they do is they only scrub it against the current list that you're uploading, not previous lists. So you are going to end up paying for duplicate skips. Is that helpful for you, Nick? Oh, I forgot he's muted,
Audio
so.
issues. Again, just like MB said, it's not Mac. It's Android.
All right, cool.
Drop it in the description, by the way, for that. So if anybody wants to take advantage of the 50%, whatever the free skips translated into skip coins is what they call them, go ahead and do that.
Perfect.
By the way, we had somebody else who was looking to pop on too. They were
he bounced out. I just texted him again.
In the meantime, we do have other questions to get to, especially one in particular that's relevant right now related to Privy, if you want to get into that right now.
Okay, so let's see here. Nick had another question. Do you pull people from Zillow and Redfin as well? Are you talking about, like, what do you mean, buyers or? So as far as I know, I haven't seen anywhere where Zillow or Redfin specify who the buyers are. I don't think they're publishing that data. So I think it'll be challenging to find that. One other thing you can also do, and I would probably recommend if you're dealing with a large list, I would recommend having a VA, or you can do it yourself. But when you go through the lists of the buyers lists in Privy, if you go into each of those records or you cross-reference Zillow for each of those properties, you can see who the agent was that was the listing agent and the buyer's agent. And so if, I would reach out to those people as well, because, if they represented the seller and the seller was an entity, then they obviously work with investors. If they work with the buyer and the buyer was an entity, then they work with investors, right? So that's a good way to multiply your efforts, because there's a good chance that they don't just work with that one investor. They might have 5, 7, 10 investors that they regularly work with. So one phone call to that agent could amount to 7 to 10 phone calls out to their investor group, right? So that could be a really good way to help dispo deals.
Word. So, by the way, Renee Martinez did message me. I'm going to check that right now because she's wanting to pop on too, I think.
I think Renee is a he. Pretty sure.
Oh, well, whatever. I was gonna, I was thinking about naming my son Jude, and my wife was like, "That's a girl's name," and I was like, "Okay, whatever. It's both. Could be both." Anyway, the boy named Sue too. By the way, that was a good song by the legend. So sorry about that. So anyway, if you want, what we can do is dive into this question we had 2 days ago from Tony Bell about Privy. And I think this is one that we can take down, notwithstanding Brad would have some great input, but isn't with us today on this live. You ready to dive into that?
Yeah. What's the question? Again, I'm not as well versed about Privy as
We
Brad
could take it
is,
down.
so
We'll be able to take it down. He said, so you purchase a property and turn it around and sell it to fix and flippers, or do you flip it yourself? If you're selling to fix and flippers, why wouldn't they themselves simply use Privy to purchase properties at lower prices? Which is a really good question. And I know I have an answer and you have an answer, Chris. You want to take this first?
yeah, because they are too busy managing rehabs, right? Like most. So here's the fallacy, right? I think people have this impression that fix and flippers are generally these like well-developed, well-oiled machines that have all these systems and processes in place and are like corporate companies that, are just dialed in, right? While that may be true, and LeMichael's popping on here as well, that may be true. There may be some fix and flippers out there that are, well developed, well polished, and have like all these systems in place and everything. But the reality is the bulk of fix and flippers are little mom and pop organizations. It's, one or two people. We're putting together a whole dispositions system and course. And one of the things that I break down in that dispositions course is the different types of buyers, right? So people think, oh, fix and flip buyers, right? Well, that's an umbrella statement. You have the one-man band where he doesn't want to work a W-2. He wants to do 3 to 5 flips a year and live a comfortable life and only have to work a little bit and just relax the rest of the time, right? Then you have, guys that are a little bit more dialed in. I call them the subcontractor guys. These are guys where, they're going to self-manage, they'll sub out the work and they can do maybe a couple deals a month. And then you have the really organized, systematic approach, the big scale flippers, right? Where it's like all they do every day. So going back to the question of, why wouldn't they use Privy to find these on-market deals and buy them themselves? They could, and that's a very high possibility, right? The reality is many fix and flippers, they don't go direct to agent. They don't go direct to seller. They usually have deals brought to them, like especially like larger groups. And so it just depends on their bandwidth. They absolutely could, but we've been doing a lot of deals off of Privy where we get them on market and we wholesale them to fix and flippers. The other thing is they might not be super skilled at negotiating, like the mom and pop fix and flipper who's just doing a handful a year, where they got into it to free up their time and spend more time at family, and maybe they have a construction background. They might not be the best salesperson in the world. And so negotiating a discount on an on-market property might not be really in their wheelhouse. So that's the value that we bring, right? So as a wholesaler, I don't consider myself a wholesaler, right? I consider myself an investor, right? It's like golf, like golf, you don't play golf with just a 9-iron, right? You have a whole bag of clubs, right? Well, wholesaling is just one club in the bag that the investor uses, right? And so I view myself as a marketer when I'm wholesaling deals. I'm very skilled at getting in front of deals, negotiating a good price, and then bringing that to the people that want it. So that's the way you have to view yourself. And if you can market better than these fix and flippers, then you're going to get it at a better price and you're still going to leave enough margin for them to want to buy it from you. So hopefully that helps. And Christian, I'm sure you have additional context.
Yeah, bro. The truth is, I have two things to say. One, you answered that question perfectly, and I could build on it, but It's perfect. I was going to say my answer would be they don't have Chris closes your deal. So they're not going to be able to negotiate it as low as Chris closes your deal can, the silver bullet. So, I mean, I'm saying that kind of jokingly, but just to say that at the end of the day, they may even also be targeting leads on Privy, but it's not just about an offer. Plenty of times people, sellers, have accepted offers from us, from me before, even when I partnered, but of course now more often because Chris closes your deal also is a very smiley, handsome guy that sellers love to talk with, as well as Brad. I got to give him credit too. So my point is building rapport is super important. If you have a better connection with somebody that, you know, is the seller of a property, many times they'll want to sell it to you, even if somebody else is offering them a higher price. So they want, because they want to benefit you. And many times we've used that Pace Morby method where we say, instead of necessarily wholesaling, hey, look, I might not be your buyer, but I might know your buyer. I have a network of other investors that I work with who, you know, what we can do is just sign an option and, you know, we can close at the price if I can find somebody who's willing to execute on that. And what I'll do is I'll just take a little fee as a finder's fee for that, or however we would want to word that, or you would want to word that. So those are the two things.
And the seller's not going to pay my finder's fee, right? Like, and that's
Right.
another thing to like anchor them into wanting to work with you, because they're always thinking like, oh, well, that's going to mean I make less money. No. My buyers are going to pay me a finder's fee for that. Now, what they don't realize is that we just told them we're going to wholesale the deal. And if the offers come in lower than what I have it locked up at, I'm going to go back and I'm going to negotiate with the seller or the seller's agent, but it's not going to be me versus the seller or the seller's agent. It's going to be me coming alongside on the same side of the table. It's like, hey, so here's what we got. We got these 3 offers. They came in a little bit lower than where we wanted it to be. So what do we want to do? Do we want to, you know, move forward with any of these, or do we want to tell them to kick rocks, right? I'm on their team. I'm helping them negotiate against the buyers that I'm bringing, right? And so now that's going to help maintain rapport. They're also going to open up more in the negotiation process and probably tell me where they really want to be and where they're really happy with going down to, which if you're the one that they're negotiating against, they're going to try to hold those cards close to the chest. So it's a really good way to get better insight into the seller or the seller's agent's negotiations. So.
Good point, man. Before we move on and welcome another guest that we have here, I just wanted to say quickly, Chris went live with this guy named Jason Lee, who is just an incredible investor. And if you haven't seen that right there, I guess it's up over here, the top one, not the bottom one where we were getting a shout out from Jerry Norton himself with 440,000 subscribers. Jason Lee, that podcast that you guys put together is awesome. And just check it out. It's totally free. Obviously, just check that Jason Lee's channel out and subscribe to his channel too, because he's awesome with
He's a killer. This guy's like 25, 26 years old and has been doing large multifamily like commercial deals for the last 5 years, crushing it. Has done like over 40, 50. I think he's done $100 million in transactions, but I think himself, he's got somewhere in the neighborhood of like 30 to $40 million of deals that he's personally been attached to. So yeah, great guy, super sharp. So, but yeah, LeMichael, what's going on? You're muted, by the way.
What's up, man? How's it going?
It's going great, man. Welcome on.
Thank you. Thanks. Happy to be here.
Yeah, man.
Awesome.
So, so LeMichael is a sub 2 student as well. So we're in sub 2 and, you know, we connected. Was yesterday the first time we connected? Was that, I'm trying to remember.
I think officially, I think we may have had a conversation on Facebook a couple months ago.
Okay. All right, cool. Yeah. So are you just on the Closers Cafe Zoom, or are you one of the guys that run it? Because I know there's like a handful of people that kind of like are managing it, right?
Yeah, so it's 4 of us that run it. So yeah, we had an accountability group, and like Closers Cafe was born out of that.
Nice. Yeah, I love the format. I was telling my acquisitions manager Brad about it. I think it's awesome, and you know, I'm able to commit to getting on there every Thursday, so I plan on showing up every Thursday and jumping on, getting on some calls and stuff, and just helping out as much as I can, and trying to act
Dude,
out. So
that would be amazing. Yeah, I know that you would bring so much value, even the feedback you gave yesterday. So we're always looking for like some heavy closers to come in and join and add value. Like so many people there that's eager to learn and see live lead generation. So we would love to have you there.
awesome, man. Yeah, it's interesting too, because I think, a lot of the people on there are like new and they're like scared of talking to agents. And, the funny thing was I've been doing sales for 25 years. And in 2019, when I got my start in real estate, Christian had to literally push me to get on the phone with an agent, because I was like, but they know more than me, like they're experts and like, blah, blah, blah. And there was this false barrier that I thought I had to overcome, and I was putting this ceiling on myself. And the reality is I got on the phone and I was like, is this her first day? Like, I don't think she really knows what's going on. So,
by the way, because this is live, that's not a copy and paste to all real estate agents or realtors, but it's just, that's why 1% or 2%, something like that, do 85% of all of the transactions, because it's way too easy to get your real estate license. I mean, I'm an agent. Let's just put it that way. I'm kidding. Self-deprecation and humor. That's my thing. All right.
It's so true though. Like I remember getting my real estate license. They were like, look to your left, look to your right, like two of you won't make it. And it was so true.
That's funny, man. Well, the interesting thing is, and I know Pace talks about this a little bit, but the test to become an agent, to get licensed, all it is ethics and legal compliance. There's literally not, like, if you're going to take your test and you're like, I wonder if they're going to ask me, how do you structure this? Or what are the steps to getting your buyer pre-qualified for a mortgage so that they can actually close on time? It's like,
right.
Good luck. That's not in there anywhere. Right. So,
right. Exactly. Or, like how to comp a house, or something as simple as that. Like you don't learn actually like in real estate school, which is by far the most basic thing that you need to know as an agent. But you're right. Some people have, like these fears about talking to agents and how to approach them. But just like I tell them, like they're just regular people too, they have some training. Some of them have high levels of training for a special skill set. But the beauty of like what we learn within that sub-2 community, number one, that it's like an advanced level investment strategy. So it's like you're already coming into that conversation. If you've done your homework and you know what you're talking about, you bring a lot of value to that conversation that you're having with that agent. And I love telling agents this. I really do wish that the real estate industry did a better job at educating agents on some of the creative finance strategies, because it's such a good solution to solve some sellers' problems. And if they did better at educating agents about this, it would help a lot of people in the community.
LeMichael, even if they were to just point them to their own RPA that they use, because Chris and I and Brad have had conversations where we talk about subject to purchases, seller financing purchases with agents, mostly subject to, and subject to, they'll say like, that sounds like it's not legal. Like I question that. And then we say, okay, access your car forms. Well, in this case, like California, right? Or your RPA, look at this line. What does it say? And they're like, oh, it says subject to. And like, right.
Or the HUD form, which is a federal document, right? It's a federal government produced document, right? Line 503, right? So, it's very interesting. I think the education is lacking, but on the flip side, right? I think, people, it's very interesting because growing up being in sales for as long as I've been in sales, I've had so many people along the way like, oh, I could never do sales, man. Like that's just not like in my wheelhouse. And then 3, 4, 5 years later, what are they doing? Like, I just got my real estate license. I'm like, you do realize that's a sales position, right? Like,
they don't. Yeah, it's the craziest thing. And I feel like I fell victim to that too. And I'll tell you the number one culprit and the reason why people do this. You have HGTV and then now you have like Netflix and you have all of these shows that glamorizes the real estate industry and make it seem so easy. It was like, okay, I'm about to sell this multi-million-dollar house, and it took 3 weeks. You know?
And all we did was we did a party and girls got Botox and had wine, and that's what sold it.
Exactly. We negotiated the deal over cocktails, and that's what did it. So yeah, like, and I remember just like growing up watching HGTV, and that's what really inspired my interest in real estate. And plus, you know, I mean, you sell bigger products, you make bigger money. And so when I got into real estate, I had no idea that I was going into a sales industry. But luckily, like, I had the right broker and the mentor at the time that, you know, shifted my mind very quickly. And I was up for the challenge. And I went from a person like hating sales, like I was like, oh my gosh, I would never want to do sales, to loving sales. Like, even to this day, I am always trying to like refine my tools and learn how to ask better questions, because sales not only can bring you in a lot of money, it is also a way to like better your life in general. You know, it helps you communicate with your spouse better. It helps you, you know, when you're negotiating, I don't know, like, you know, trying to get a car, whatever it is, you know, by asking good questions and solving people's problems. So I'm like a sales addict.
1000%. You know, like I'm right there with you, man. Sales, people they overcomplicate what sales is. Sales is simply an exchange of beliefs, right? I have a belief in a product, service, or idea, right? Like, I could be selling an idea. That's what politics is, right? And I'm just trying to exchange that level of belief that I have onto the person that I'm communicating with. And I can either do that by trying to like beat them over the head with just like pounding things into them, or I can ask them questions and let them tell me exactly what's going to appeal to them. And then I'll circle back to what it is that I have and how it actually appeals to those things. So, yeah, man, that's awesome. I know.
You know what? My takeaway from what LeMichael just said is that even if you are struggling with your real estate investment journey and you're learning things tuning into here, if you're married, then you just also have to tune in, because those same sales tactics, when you're watching Chris closes your deal or LeMichael in the coffee, by the way, Thursdays, you're going to plug in. Like, I want to hear about that value that most recently you got, because that's going to benefit everybody. But tune in for the sales stuff too, because it'll also benefit not just your business, but your marriage. So
well, the funny thing is, you know, my wife and I, like, we're going to, you know, marital counseling at at church. You know, not that there's anything like wrong, but you know, it's like it's always good to have a tune up. And the interesting thing is, like, a lot of the things that, you know, we're being told by our pastor is like, you know, hey, you know, like, I'm like, oh, interesting. That's a sales tactic. That's a sales technique. That's a sales technique. That's the sales technique. You know, I'm like, boom, boom, boom. So it's just funny. So but yeah, let me go. I know you had some questions you were reaching out about. So wanted to help add value, you know, whatever way I can. So take it away.
Yeah, I mean, I have a couple of questions. I guess we'll start with one first. I mean, the first one is, so with doing like the subject to deals, and I'm new to sub two. I got there like in January, but I have previous real estate experience, and yeah, right now I'm going like DTA, direct to agent, and that's where I'm finding most of my leads and deals. And so I was just wondering, like, what other niche lists would you guys recommend?
Yeah. So are you asking because you're looking to expand beyond direct to agent and you're looking for direct to seller type of scenarios, or are you looking to kind of niche out other direct to agent ways and things of that sort?
Yes, both of those.
Sorry, you kind of cut out there and went robot man on me.
Oh, okay. Sorry about that. I said yes. Both of those.
Okay. All right. Got it. Cool. Well, so yeah, I mean, as far as like with the direct to agent stuff, you know, there's a couple different approaches. So I think, if I'm not mistaken, the approach that you take, you're using Privy, right?
No, I am using the MLS.
Oh, okay. All right. Got it. Perfect.
So I target
So-
high days on market and then also low equity.
Okay. All right, cool. Yeah, so that's a great way to get after subject to. Are you targeting any high equity, like absentee owner scenarios?
High equity absentee owners. No, I am not.
Okay. So that's going to be different for, that's going to get you more seller finance conversations, right? Tired landlords, basically. So, typically what we'll do is we'll look for tired landlords, and that's going to be high equity. Maybe they've owned it for 10 or more years. If you're going agent, then obviously, you want it something that's been listed for a little while. The benefit to pitching that, right? Like, what's the value? What do you think the value is for a tired landlord in pitching seller finance?
I would say the interest rate and the return on their money, and not having to manage tenants, but still having passive income.
Okay. Yeah, those are all great reasons, right? I would say the interest rate would be the last thing I would bring up, because if I'm doing everything that I really want to do, like I'm ideally not paying any interest, but a landlord or, a tired landlord, if they're savvy, they're probably going to want it. But if you can pack it into the principal, then it doesn't necessarily matter, and it can make it super attractive, and it can help you sell wraps, which is a great way to get cash flow on your end. If it's not a good, if it doesn't make sense as a great rental.
Don't forget to talk about how to pitch that too, because the way that we've talked about pitching that is really, really clutch.
Specifically the no interest.
No interest, packing it into the principal, because, well, I could just refinance it out anytime and then you don't get everything. So, right, don't forget to talk about that, because that is clutch.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot we can talk about with regards to like negotiating the actual prices and everything. And when you're the other thing with creative, obviously there's an extra layer of difficulty when you're negotiating with agents, because, you're not getting the emotion as much. I mean, some agents are pretty emotional, and, that generally doesn't work in our favor, because they're just angry, but,
Or they let their own biases get in the way of the transaction. Like immediately, oh, my seller's not interested in that. Awesome. Did you have a conversation with them?
Exactly. And that's something, for those of you who are watching, that's not just something that agents do, right? Like that's something that we all do, right? And it's human nature, right? We all want to be like, other people. We want to be around people that are like us, that think like us, that act like us, right? So I would probably never sell a house to somebody on 0% seller financing, right? Like probably not. So it's nature for me to like go into conversations thinking like, why would somebody else do that, and start to put my own biases, right? And so agents are going to do that all the time. And so, it's really important to ask a lot of questions, and not speak to them, but let them speak to you through those questions, and, lead them to the result you're trying to get to. But yeah, with those, tired landlords, yeah, I mean, you're basically giving them all the benefit of being a landlord without all the problems of being a landlord, right? So that's a great target to go after. Generally speaking, you're going to pay a little bit more for properties in those scenarios, because the motivation is not nearly as high as, significant pain points like foreclosure and things of that sort, as well. So yeah, and a lot of this is stuff that I'll be talking about. By the way, for those of you who don't know, Jason Santos, who's another sub-2 student, is putting on a pretty massive event in LA at the end of June. I think it's June 24th. And I just got brought on to be one of the guest speakers there. So super excited about that. There should be about 500 to 700 people at that event. And I'll be diving into a lot of like sales and negotiation tactics, and talking creative and stuff like that. So if you guys are in the LA area, you should definitely check it out. We'll get a link put in the description, so you guys can sign up for that. It should be awesome. As far as was that part helpful for like the direct to agent, like some other niches that you can go after there?
Yeah, absolutely. I haven't even thought about that one.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I mean those are primed, right? Because it's a rental. It might have tenants already in it. And you can find out sometimes, like if they're really that serious about selling it, I mean, it just depends. Every situation is going to be different, and you really have to dig in and find the details of that specific seller and why they're wanting to sell. Do they really need to cash out? A lot of times agents are going to be like, oh, they need a 1031. And what a lot of people don't realize is you can do seller finance and still 1031 it. There's like some extra hoops to jump through. And you'd have to talk to an accountant that can kind of help navigate that process a little bit more. But there are options there as well. Cool. So with regards to direct to seller, are you doing any direct to seller right now?
No, it is on my back burner. And then sale. That's kind of the challenge I've been facing too, because I know there's a lot of opportunities there. And then right now, I don't feel like I fully maximize my direct to agent yet. So I'm like, do I need to plug this in too, or do I need to wait until like this is fully systematized and maximized?
Got it. Okay. So there's a couple things I'm thinking and I have questions. So what does your direct to agent process being fully maximized look like? Like in a perfect world, what would that finality be to where you'd be like, cool, this is like perfectly up and running and now I can move on to the next thing?
Yeah, I think if I had a system in place to make sure that I got to all of the lead opportunities in a timely manner, that would be fully systematized for me. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so you want to make sure that in whatever markets you're marketing in and whatever niche or buy box you're looking for, right? Like you want to make sure you're getting to every single opportunity and getting through those effectively and efficiently before adding more on.
Yep.
Got it. Okay. And currently you're using the MLS, right? So do you have a process in place to make sure that like any and all properties that fit the criteria that you're looking for are constantly getting put in front of you without you having to do a lot? Like, is that automated? Do you have a VA? Are you doing it manually?
Right now, I'm just doing it manually. Like I have like people in place that could help me systematize it and do it automatically. I don't think that I necessarily know how right now. I do have PropStream too, so I do pull some data from there. I have Privy as well. So I am open to ideas to make it more efficient.
Okay. Have you gone through our Privy, the on-market offer system for Privy?
I have seen, yes. I don't know that I've gone through all of the videos, but I've seen like a handful.
Okay. Yeah, I would encourage you to go through that whole process. And now for you, you might not do it the way we do it as far as like what properties we're making offers on. So there's two different approaches to the on market. There's what we call a shotgun approach and then the sniper approach, right? So what you guys are doing on the Closers Cafe, right, is identifying specific properties that meet specific criteria. You're getting on the phone with the agent first, trying to have the conversation and get them to, the finish line, right? What the shotgun approach, so that's more of like the sniper approach, right? You're going direct, and you're going to be limited in the volume that you could do, but you're going to get on, have those conversations, and hopefully, make good headway there. The shotgun approach that we use is where we're identifying all of these properties and we're mass email blasting every single one of those agents with kind of a general reduction off of the list price for a cash offer. And then the people that respond to us, those are the ones we're then engaging. So we're like carpet bombing all of the listed properties. Now we're also going to layer on the sniper approach as well. So it's going to be a two-pronged approach because there's going to be some of those people that don't respond to that, or somewhere it ends up in their spam mailbox. But, just understanding how to use Privy as like a CRM for on-market deals, I think would be really, really helpful in the way that Brad puts them into folders and organizes them. And it updates daily, right? So the bulk of the work is going to be day one, setting up that CRM within there, and setting up the filters so that it constantly updates. And then every day you're just going in and managing, and you're saying, okay, here's the new ones that hit this criteria. And now I'm going to put them in this folder and that folder and this folder and that folder. And it's going to give you a lot of opportunity to just kind of roll through them very rapidly and stay on top of them for follow-up, right? Because if you're doing everything from the MLS, you're having to move them over into some sort of CRM and then figure out, right? But because it's not connected, it's going to be very difficult to see the changes on the MLS unless you're actively going in there and re-pulling them up. Right.
Yeah, and that's kind of like what's been going on now. And I have seen Brad do that in those videos, and I like that process. And I tried to implement some of it within the MLS, inspired by those videos. Couple of questions for you. As far as like KPIs are concerned, say for instance, I know you work a couple of different markets. In one particular market, going for the shotgun approach, what would you say is like, the amount of offers you'll get out in a week, and what that response rate of somebody, what that response rate is?
Yeah, it's going to depend on how much how many new properties are listed, right? And that fit the criteria. And so every market is going to be a bit different. But I will say that with the shotgun approach, generally speaking, we'll get 2 to 3% of the offers that we're making are getting accepted, and we're getting under contract. So now that's cash. I know you guys are mainly, at least on the Closure Cafe, you're pitching a lot of creative. Are you guys starting with cash on a lot of those, or are you just going straight to creative?
With all of those, it's mostly straight to creative, but I use cash as a tee up for my creative pitch, because for creative, we're going after like newer houses that don't need a lot of work. But I usually, I forget what you call it, when you set the bar low.
Anchor.
Anchor, exactly. Yeah.
Got it. Yeah, and that's really important, right? And a lot of people that are brand new into sub 2, they come in and they immediately go for a terms offer, right? And and it's partly because like Pace is like, I don't care if I'm overpaying for a property, right? If I'm getting the terms that I want, because X, Y, and Z, and it's going to cash flow, right? And yes, that's true, right? But they're missing a lot of the greater context that Pace talks about in a lot of the videos that he does. And like, the theme is cash, terms are last, right? Because oftentimes those deals, if somebody's asking for 300, sure, I could come in and be like, awesome, if I could come up to your number, would you be open to terms, right? But my terms are now based on 300, right? But if I come in and they're like, okay, we want 300, and I underwrite the deal, and I'm like, yeah, I mean, our cash offer on a property like this, for us to be able to profit on this at any amount, I mean, we'd have to be around like 190 to 200. Oh no, there's no way I could take 190, 200. Like, okay, got it. So like, what would you be able to take? I might be able to do like 285. Let me go back to my team, right? Re-underwrite it. And then I'm like, I could probably come up to maybe 210. They're like, man, 210, there's just no way, right? I can't come down to 210. I owe more on it than that, right? So I'd be taking a loss. Got it. Okay. And remind me again what you owe on it. Oh, I owe like 265. Okay, got it. So, I mean, could you do any better than 280, 285? I mean, I might be able to come down to 275. Got it. Okay. Well, there's no way that I'm going to be able to do a cash offer at 275. But if I could come up to your number, would you be open to terms? Right? Now I'm not coming up to 300. I'm coming up to 275, which if you take $25,000 and let's say, I mean, we get pretty decent private money rates. We get like 8%. So, if we take $25,000 times 0.08 divided by 12, interest only payments on that is 167. Well, if I'm only going to cash flow $250 and now I got to pay 167, now it's like a skinnier deal, and is it worth my time, energy, and effort to get that? But by negotiating that $25,000 out of the deal, right now, it makes it a much more attractive cash flowing deal. And I can wrap it, so it just gives me a lot more flexibility to do something with that property.
Yeah. What I like about that too, it's so easy as an instinct when people first get sub 2 in their tool belt, to sort of pitch cash, and then go straight to sub 2 offer. It's like, okay, you don't want to take my 200K offer. Okay, well, I'll give you 3K if you take terms. So, but I like what you did is like, no, I'm gonna push this cash offer all the way to the very end before I go ahead and pitch terms.
Yeah, 100%. So I'm a fighter, right? I've been doing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for like a decade, right? And, one of the things, when you're fighting, whether it's Jiu-Jitsu or boxing or, Muay Thai, whatever it is, right? You have feints, right? And it's a fake punch. The problem is, the biggest hurdle that newer people have to get over is that you can't like fake a fake punch. You can't be like, and think that the goal of the fake punch is to get them to react so that you can then kick them or throw them or whatever it is, right? But you really got to sell it. So like, to your point, you have to sell the idea that you're actually trying to get them locked up under cash and you're trying to negotiate. And it's not just just for the sake of saying a cash number. Like, that's not the point. You got to actually pitch cash and negotiate and try to get the number down a little bit.
Right. Let me ask you this.
Winning.
Go ahead.
And let them feel like they're winning too, right? Like, yeah, I can go on a whole nother tangent, but what was your other question? You were about some other question.
So my concern with Privy, as awesome as it is, and I don't have a lot of experience to validate this or not. However, especially like being licensed and, using things like, or compare things like PropStream and some of the other data aggregators to like the MLS, especially in Texas, being a non-disclosure state, sometimes there's some inaccuracies in that data. So like, what's your experience in like a non-disclosure state of being able to just like heavily rely on Privy for the data?
Yeah, that's a great question. And my answer is going to suck. We don't do a lot in non-disclosure states.
Okay.
But I know Benson is busting his tail to like get true MLS access. And I believe as of late, Privy's data in like the major metros in Texas are more direct MLS access. So the data that is in there should be better. Don't quote me on that. You might want to reach out to the support staff and see like if they've gotten that access, but I'm pretty sure I recall a conversation not too long ago with Benson where he was saying that they did get that. So but I would check the specific market that you're talking about. But ultimately that's where leveraging your experience and because you're licensed in where? Texas
and Nevada.
Okay. All right, cool. So you have MLS access, right? So what I would say is if you're coming up with information, it's like, then you can just go cross-reference it. For those who are watching, who are not licensed, this is why it's really important to build relationships with agents that you can keep in your back pocket. And, you got to bring value to them, right? Like as Pace always says, you have to lead with value. So like, what's in it for them? And like, for me, the way I add value to agents is even as a wholesaler, it's like, why is an agent going to work with me? I'm a wholesaler, right? Or I'm wholesaling deals. Like they can't get the relist. And it's like, no, you absolutely can wholesale a deal with an agent included on the relist. And we often do that. And interestingly enough, it actually makes buyers less likely to negotiate my price of my property and more likely to negotiate out the relist, which is helpful for getting a better number on your wholesale fee. So that's been pretty interesting. But yeah, building relationships with agents, in the markets where you don't have MLS access. And then, for you using that MLS access to cross-reference. And since you are doing a lot of direct to agent, I'm always asking them. And I think, one thing that can be challenging for some people. It's very easy to get snarky with agents and like call out their flaws and like, well, that's not really a comp, blah, blah, blah. It's like the whole goal in sales is you're trying to bridge a gap, right? You know, you're trying to bridge the gap between the seller or the agent and yourself, right? And this is actually kind of what I was like talking on yesterday in the Closers Cafe, right? Is like, you know, when you get any type of objection or anything like that, the longer you avoid focusing on that specific thing, right, the greater that divide. And you're actually doing two things simultaneously. You're increasing resistance and reducing credibility and commitment, right? So, you know, when I'm talking to agents, I'll ask them for their expertise. Hey, you're the expert in the area. Like, tell me what's your expectation of value if I, you know, dress this thing to the nines, right? And do it up, you know, and they'll give me an ARV. And if their ARV is wildly off because they're trying to sell the deal, like I might not necessarily, I'm not just going to go ham on them. Like, no, aha, I got you. You're trying to manipulate me, right? It's like, again, just like with the seller, ask questions. It's discovery. Oh, really? Interesting. I'm not seeing those comps, you know, that are telling me that. Maybe there's something that I'm missing. Is there something, you know, would you be open to sharing the comps that you're pulling up that, you know, give you that expectation of after repair value? Because I would love to go back to my team and, you know, sell them on the fact that like, hey, we could sell this for more than what their expectation is, right? You know, and now it's like a collaborative effort, you know, and then when I go back and I tell them that there's something wrong with the way that they came up with that ARV, it's not going to be in an attacking method, right? It's I'm coming to the same side of the table, and now it's me and that agent versus my rehab team and my financing team who's telling me that the numbers have to be here, right? Like it's me and him against the bean counters. Like, bro, like I want to get this deal done as much as you can, but I'm up against the wall with my bean counters on the back end. Help me help you so we can get this deal done together.
Exactly. Yeah, I agree with you 100%. And just like you, I like to lead my conversations, one, with compassion and curiosity. I'll try not to get on the soapbox here, but like you have so many like investors that they're like, oh my gosh, I hate agents and like all of this. And then, you know, like having lots of experience with working with agents and investors. And I'm like, guess what? That's what the agents are saying about the investors also, you know, and like the big gap is just a misunderstanding, you know, and for me, it's hard for me to get on one side or the other in terms of like, oh, I hate investors or I hate agents. I actually love agents. Like I've like within my career, I've made a lot of money working with real estate agents. And so it's like, I can't say that I hate them and then still depend on them for my source of income, you know? So for me, like I love approaching those conversations with compassion and understanding. And like, I know I did retail real estate for what, 7-8 years, and they just don't educate us enough on the investment side and vice versa. Like some investors, they're like, oh, these agents are stupid, but it's like, have you ever been a retail agent? Like, could you do the job that they do? You know, or do you know what it takes to actually list a home and sell a house? You know, that's in a challenging market, not just putting it on an MLS. So when I have my conversations with agents, like I'm always leading with that compassion. It's like, I understand there's some gaps in the understanding, and my job is to close those gaps as much as possible.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. And going back to like the conversation of like what really is sales, right? A lot of people think like, oh, sales is convincing or sales is persuading. And it's like, yeah, there's some of that. But if you boil it down to what it really is as base level, when you take the approach that, hey, it's an exchange of beliefs, right? And, you know, that agent, when I'm asking them what's their expectation of ARV, they have a belief, right? And what I'm trying to do is how much do they believe that belief, right? Are they like all in, like that's the line in the sand, and it's because they have all of this evidence that's reinforcing that belief? Or is that just a soft belief that they're open to discussion? And it's like, hey, I'm open to discussing this. That's not what I'm seeing, and maybe I'm missing something. Is there something about the subject property that I don't know that might help impact my ability to see that value? Or is there something about these other comps that might help me, reasonably see that value? And, alternatively is like, hey, I mean, if I share with you, what I'm coming up with, is there a world in which you might see that side and see why maybe some of those might not be ideal comps, right? So yeah, I think that approach, really makes it helpful and makes it more collaborative as opposed to combative. And I think that's the problem with a lot of people. They think negotiations have to be combative. It's a fight. And it's like, no, it's more of a dance, and who's leading.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And sometimes you could even see that in negotiation styles with the listing agent and the buyer's agent. It's like, no, we're trying to work together to put this deal together. Obviously we want to do what's in the best interest of our client. But I memean, and at the same time, like what we have to understand too is that there's always going to be good and bad people, no matter what industry you're in. Like, you can go to McDonald's and you're going to have some like cashiers that are amazing. And, they believe in good customer service. They're nice people and they communicate effectively. And then you're going to have some cashiers that like suck. And they have bad attitudes, bad outlooks and all of that. And that's the same in every single industry. There's lawyers, there's doctors like that too. You have good and you have bad. And then, but it doesn't paint the whole picture for the entire industry. And I feel like sometimes people, they're easy to like categorize people in just like one boat, and they're just like, oh my gosh, real estate agents suck.
Yep.
Just some of them suck.
Exactly. The bulk of them suck, but
yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's fair. That's more accurate.
the 80% that make 20% of the money, they suck.
Yeah.
They also, the other thing too is like, I think, they don't think, a lot of people don't realize that being a real estate agent is a sales position, but they also don't realize that you're an entrepreneur. Like, as much as you work for a brokerage, like 9 out of 10 brokerages don't do a whole lot for you. They're not going to do, 90% of the work. Right. So like, even as a salesperson, like most sales jobs, like the work is easy because all you have to do is get on the phone with leads that are already pre-warmed up for you and you just close them. It's like T-ball, right? Like, but being an agent, it's like, you got to be the baseball player. You got to be the pitcher, the catcher, the first base, second base, and you got to be the GM who's managing the whole freaking team. And that team is you just wearing 10 different hats,
Right.
So,
Right.
Awesome.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to see, were there any other questions that you had or things that we could help with or, kind of.
Yeah, I mean, if it's okay with you, if we can talk about the second part too, like the direct to seller.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Just in case you have some listeners, they was like, oh, you have two great questions. Like, what's the answer to the second question? So yeah, like other than I guess like pre-foreclosures, what would you recommend is like a good motivated niche list to?
Yeah. So really there's really only a handful, and there's not like a silver bullet. What I would say is the key to like getting access to like really motivated sellers is when you can layer on different motivations, right? So the more motivation, the more pain, the more motivation, right? And the better of a deal you're going to get and the faster you're going to be able to close that if you can solve their problem. So, the main pain points are going to be like pre-foreclosures. You've got, also, I mean, you can do expired listings, right? That there's, some level of pain there. Now, some of those are just like unrealistic, right? But, they're at the end of their expectations being adjusted by the market, and the market did all that for you. It's not you adjusting their expectations. But, pre-foreclosures, you've got tax delinquency, tax liens, you've got water shutoff, you got code violations. Code violations is something that not a lot of people really dive into because it's a little bit more intricate to get that data. You got probate, and those can be a little bit longer, time frame stuff. And then also like Pace talks about it in the Pace method is like, developing relationships with these like semi-connected professionals, right? Like probate attorneys and, like I have a buddy who has a fix and flip company, but he also owns an estate sale company. And the bulk of his leads come directly from the estate sale leads because they come in and they're like, hey, we have to do an estate sale. Like, okay, awesome. Tell me a little bit about the things that you have to sell, starting with, is there any property that has to be sold?
That's amazing. That's brilliant.
And he makes a ton of money on those because they're just trying to liquidate everything
Right.
as fast as humanly possible. Right. So, so yeah, for those of you who are watching, who are like into looking to buy other businesses, like estate sales, if you can find an estate sale company that has a dialed in process, that they're looking to sell and you can just buy that, that would be a good one to take over and then just start funneling leads into your real estate business. So,
it was really helpful.
Awesome, man. Cool, dude. Well, other than that, Christian, what else do we got?
Yeah, we've had a lot of questions and a surplus of them, but we don't have a surplus is of time. So we're probably gonna wrap up here in a little bit. But LeMichael, it was awesome having you on. And you're welcome back anytime. That goes for anyone else who's watching, for those of you who have engaged in comments and questions too. If you're comfortable with getting on live, I would encourage you to do so, to ask those questions. And keep this in mind. If your knee-jerk reaction to that is, oh man, no, I don't want to be on camera. I don't want to get out of your comfort zone, because how you do anything is how you do everything. If you're showing up on the phone with cold calling, talking to sellers, talking to agents, no matter how much experience you had, if you are just tuning in relatively recently, Chris shared an example of that. Chris has been in sales for 25 plus years. And even though he had that much sales experience, when we first linked up, and as the coach of real estate at that time, I was pouring into him. I said, get on the phone with this agent. He was hesitant to do so. And then he discovered very quickly after getting on the phone, he didn't need to be. So neither do you. Jump on with us, interact with us. Let's do this Feedback Friday and take it to a whole nother level. That's our goal. And one quick plug for something that's totally free and you guys are going to get a lot of value out of. At the end of June, we'll link it in the description below, the exact details. We're going to be doing a live VA hiring masterclass. And that is to say that everything that Chris is going to be addressing live in Los Angeles, right, on the 24th of June, check-ins at 8 o'clock. I left a link in the description to this event that you can register. We want to see you face-to-face there, LA, on the 24th of June. From stage one, thing we're going to discuss is that process of acquisitions, creative, closing, and then end with, how do you take this and make it scalable? Well, that's what we're going to talk about in the VA hiring masterclass that's after that event. So whether you are able to go to LA live or whether we're just going to see you on that masterclass, both of those will be linked in the description below. And we look forward to seeing everyone at both of them and taking our business to the next level, because it's about owning more of your time and all the buzzwords of financial freedom. The truth is, it's just about flexibility to be able to do, what you want. Like LeMichael does. He wants to provide value for other people. So he takes that closer cafe time, and so does Chris. We're taking this time right now to give back because we're able to do that, having a team operating and running in the background, our real estate investing business. So I know that was a mouthful. That's really it for me to contribute to it. I didn't have anything else to say because you guys crushed it. Thanks so much for your engagement too. Appreciate it.
Michael, any other questions before we hop off?
That's it. Yeah, it was a pleasure finally connecting with you guys and meeting you guys.
Awesome.
The only other thing I'll say before we wrap up is, Chris, I'm going to put you on the spot for a dad joke. He told me he was working on his dad jokes. So you got to come up with one, and we'll see if the audience likes it. Just comment, but don't be too harsh below as soon as he shares this dad joke.
All right. What kind of shoes do spies wear?
Oh, we know this. Sneakers.
Sneakers.
Love it. All right. Everyone, that's going to be it. Join us next time and on our channel. Continue to help us together make real estate investing easy.
Awesome. Appreciate you, LeMichael.